The mighty Lemnorian invasion force, the terror of 1,000 worlds, found itself in complete disarray, crippled and on the brink of defeat, all because of the deeply unexpected tenacity of a single human civilian named Derek Boyd. When the first Lemnorian attack ships descended on Derek City and disgorged columns of technologically superior alien shock troops, he knew humanity's very survival was at stake. The engineer and former Special Forces soldier watched helplessly as his friends and neighbors were rounded up like cattle, but Derek refused to go quietly. He knew he had to resist. He had to fight, even if he was just one man against an empire. Derek started his guerrilla war simply at first, laying booby traps with improvised explosives and picking off lone Lemnorian troopers with salvaged weapons. But as he scavenged more alien technology and rallied other humans to resist, his insurgency grew bolder and more effective. Supply depots were raided. Vital equipment was sabotaged. Dozens of Lemnorian soldiers were killed in daring ambushes. Word of Derek's solitary resistance spread like wildfire, igniting the suppressed fighting spirit in downtrodden humans across the occupied territories. Pockets of resistance flared to life everywhere, despite the Lemnorians' brutal retaliation and bloody crackdowns. The human spirit, it seemed, would not be cowed. When the invasion's supreme commander, General Pixis, challenged the rebel leader to single combat in front of both armies, he expected to easily crush Derek and the human resistance in one fell swoop. He never imagined the human would have the audacity to dictate terms, hand-to-hand combat, no weapons or armor. And he certainly didn't expect that this primitive being would humiliate him so thoroughly in front of his troops, pummeling the arrogant general into unconsciousness with brutal mixed martial arts moves as both sides looked on in shock. Derek's victory was more than a personal triumph. It broke the Lemnorians' will to fight and unified the human resistance under his leadership. This was no longer a secret, scattered insurgency. This was open revolution. As human forces rallied and surged forth to retake their cities, the Lemnorian lines crumbled, their resolve shattered, their confidence broken. The invaders had gravely underestimated human tenacity, adaptability, and sheer determination. And now, the Lemnorian armada that had conquered 100 star systems ran the risk of being wiped out by a single species that refused to surrender. All because of the unexpected and unbreakable defiance of one man, Derek Boyd. With the Lemnorian invaders reeling from Derek's stunning victory over General Pixis, the human resistance seized the moment. Derek wasted no time rallying his forces for a bold strike at the heart of the enemy, their primary command center. He handpicked a strike team of his most skilled and daring rebels. They spent days studying captured Lemnorian tech, learning to operate the alien weapons and equipment. Disguises were meticulously crafted, allowing them to infiltrate past the perimeter defenses. Once inside the sprawling compound, Derek's team moved with practiced precision. They split into small groups, each with a critical mission. Some planted powerful explosive charges at key structural points and junctions. Others sabotaged the force fields and communications arrays with well-placed shots and hacking tools. Alarms blared as the Lemnorians realized they had been breached, but it was too late. The charges detonated in a coordinated sequence, ripping through the command center's defenses. Blast doors crumpled. Bulkheads collapsed. The facility's central war room was thrown into chaos. Derek burst in amidst the confusion, his team close behind. The Lemnorian commanders were stunned to see a human in their sanctum. Shouts of alarm and panic filled the air. "Hostile human breach! Protect the War Council at all costs!" one of them barked. Elite bodyguards rushed to engage Derek's team, energy blades flashing. The tight confines of the war room erupted into a brutal melee. Humans and Lemnorians clashed in desperate hand-to-hand combat. Derek found himself face-to-face with Corvus, the Lemnorian second in command. The towering alien warrior snarled with rage, lunging at Derek with lightning speed. They exchanged a furious barrage of strikes, parries, and counterattacks, moving almost too fast for the eye to follow. Corvus pressed the attack, his enhanced strength driving Derek back. The human rebel felt his stamina waning under the relentless assault. Corvus hammered through his guard, seizing him by the throat. Derek choked, dark spots swimming in his vision. With a burst of desperate strength, he broke the chokehold and activated a hidden transponder. "Fire in the hole!" he gasped. The war room's walls burst inward as the proximity mines his team had planted earlier went off. Debris rained down on the combatants. Corvus flinched instinctively, his grip loosening for a split second. It was all Derek needed. He whirled away from the falling rubble and launched himself into a devastating counterattack. Blow after savage blow hammered through the Lemnorians' defenses, targeting vital points with merciless precision. Derek felt bones shatter beneath his fists. Corvus reeled under the onslaught, his movements growing sluggish. With a final brutal strike to the temple, Derek dropped Corvus to the floor, the once fearsome alien commander reduced to a twitching heap. Derek scanned the war room, adrenaline surging. His team had neutralized the other Lemnorian leaders in the chaos. Decades of pent-up human fury had been unleashed upon the invaders. Moving quickly, the rebels armed the surviving human prisoners with captured weapons. They stormed through the rest of the command center, ruthlessly eliminating any remaining pockets of resistance. Within minutes, the mighty Lemnorian command center had fallen to a handful of humans. Derek made sure to seize the facility's data cores before rigging the power systems to overload. They needed the intelligence, but couldn't risk the Lemnorians retaking this base. As the strike team evacuated with their liberated comrades and precious data, Derek paused to broadcast a message on all frequencies. "This is Derek Boyd of the Earth Resistance. We have taken the Lemnorian command center. Their leaders are dead or captured. This fight is nowhere near the end. But today, we showed the invaders that humanity will never stop resisting. We will never surrender. Earth will be free." Cheers from the resistance fighters echoed through the burning halls. The news of Derek's victory spread like wildfire, reigniting the flames of human defiance across the globe. In hidden bases and secret cells, the resistance drew hope and strength from the daring raid. But the battle was only beginning. As Derek pored over the seized intel with his top strategists and advisors, he knew the real work lay ahead. The Lemnorians were far from defeated, but now the resistance had a fighting chance. They would learn the enemy's secrets. They would find the invaders' weaknesses and break their supply lines. And then, with Derek Boyd leading the charge, Earth would rise up and take back its freedom, no matter the consequences. Derek Boyd hunched over a makeshift war table, surrounded by his top lieutenants. The captured Lemnorian data cores had yielded a goldmine of intelligence. His eyes locked onto a hollow projection of a sprawling underground complex. "This is it," he said, voice low and intense. "Their primary supply depot. We take this out, we cripple their entire invasion force." Sarah, his tech expert, zoomed in on the facility's defenses. "Heavy fortifications, multiple security layers. It won't be easy." Derek's lips curved into a grim smile. "When has it ever been?" He turned to address the group. "We'll need our best for this one. Hand-picked teams, extensive training with the Lemnorian tech we've salvaged." For weeks, they planned and prepared. Derek drilled his strike force relentlessly, honing their skills with alien weaponry and perfecting their infiltration techniques. Finally, under cover of darkness, they made their move. Using cloaking technology reverse-engineered from Lemnorian stealth units, Derek's team slipped past the outer perimeter undetected. At the rendezvous point, he split his force. "Remember," he told the diversion team, "maximum chaos. Draw their attention. Keep it focused on you. We'll handle the rest." As Derek led his squad towards the facility's core, the night erupted into mayhem. Explosions rocked the compound, alarms blaring. They found a maintenance hatch and rappelled down into the depths of the alien stronghold. The ventilation shaft was claustrophobic, barely wide enough for a human. Derek's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of approaching Lemnorian patrols. He held up a fist, halting his team. Seconds ticked by, each breath echoing loudly in the confined space. Finally, the alien footsteps faded. They emerged into a corridor, immediately coming under fire from a Lemnorian security team. Derek dove for cover, plasma bolts searing the air around him. He returned fire with a captured energy rifle, the alien weapon feeling awkward in his hands. "Push forward!" he shouted over the din of battle. His team responded, unleashing a barrage of suppressing fire. They advanced ruthlessly, using their knowledge of Lemnorian tactics to outmaneuver the defenders. After what felt like hours of intense fighting, they reached the central storage bays. Derek's eyes widened at the sight. Cavernous didn't begin to describe it. Row upon row of crates stretched as far as he could see, interspersed with alien vehicles and massive pieces of artillery. "Plant the charges," Derek ordered, his voice tight. "We don't have much time." As his team worked, the distant sounds of battle grew closer. The diversion team was being pushed back. Suddenly, a massive blast door at the far end of the bay began to open. "Incoming!" Derek shouted, diving behind a crate as Lemnorian reinforcements poured in. Energy weapons lit up the vast space, filling the air with deadly beams. Derek's team scrambled for cover, returning fire where they could. He saw one of his men go down, chest smoking from a direct hit. Gritting his teeth, Derek activated his comm link. "Charges are set," came the response from his demolitions expert. Without hesitation, Derek hit the detonator. The world exploded into fire and noise. The initial blasts set off a chain reaction, ammunition caches and fuel cells igniting in a hellish conflagration. The entire complex shuddered. Support beams groaned and buckled. Derek shouted to be heard over the din. "Move! Move! We need to get topside now!" They fought their way through collapsing corridors, battling not just Lemnorian troops but the very infrastructure of the facility as it came down around them. Derek lost count of how many close calls they had, barely avoiding being crushed by falling debris or cut off by spreading fires. At last, they emerged into the open air, coughing and covered in dust and blood. Derek did a quick head count. Less than half his strike team had made it out. But as he looked back at the massive sinkhole where the depot had been, he knew the sacrifice had been worth it. The journey back to friendly lines was a blur of exhaustion and constant vigilance. When they finally stumbled into the resistance camp, a cheer went up from the assembled fighters. News of their success had already spread. Derek allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before the grim reality set in. They'd won a major victory, but the war was just the beginning. As he looked at the battered, determined faces of his fellow resistance fighters, he knew one thing for certain. The Lemnorians had no idea what they'd gotten themselves into when they decided to invade Earth. The Lemnorian High Command was in chaos. Their once impregnable supply lines lay in ruins, and the human resistance grew bolder by the day. In a desperate bid to regain control, they dispatched their most elite strike teams with a single mission: find Derek Boyd and crush the rebellion once and for all. But Derek was always one step ahead. As he pored over captured intelligence reports, his blood ran cold. The Lemnorians had an ace up their sleeve, a doomsday weapon of unimaginable power. "A plasma cannon," he muttered, studying the schematics. "Big enough to vaporize an entire city." Sarah leaned in, her face grim. "If they use that thing, it's game over." Derek's mind raced. They had to take it out, and fast. He gathered his top lieutenants, outlining an audacious plan to infiltrate the secret bunker housing the superweapon. "It's a long shot," he admitted, "but it's our only chance." While the bulk of the resistance launched diversionary attacks across the occupied zones, Derek led a small strike team towards the bunker's location. They moved under cover of darkness, using every trick they'd learned to evade Lemnorian patrols. The bunker's defenses were unlike anything they'd faced before. Automated turrets spat superheated plasma, while energy shields flickered and pulsed. Derek's team fought tooth and nail for every inch of ground. "Push forward," he shouted over the din of battle. "We can't let them bring that cannon online." They breached the main facility, only to be met by waves of fanatical Lemnorian guards. The aliens fought with the desperation of those who knew defeat meant extinction. Derek's team was forced to clear the facility room by room in brutal close-quarters combat. Finally, they reached the central chamber, The plasma cannon dominated the cavernous space, crackling with barely contained energy. Derek's demolitions expert hurried to plant charges on critical systems. Suddenly, the bunker shook violently. Alarms blared as massive blast doors slammed shut. "They're activating it," Sarah yelled, frantically working at a control panel. "We're trapped." Derek's mind raced. They were out of time and options. He split his remaining forces, barking out orders. "You three, overload those plasma capacitors. The rest of you with me. We're cutting our way out." It was an audacious attempt. As part of the team worked to destabilize the cannon's power core, Derek and the others attacked the outer hull with plasma cutters. The metal glowed white-hot, slowly giving way. The chamber filled with the scream of overloading systems. Arcs of energy lashed out, scorching the walls. Derek felt the hairs on his arms stand up as the air crackled with power. "Now or never," he roared. With a final push, they breached the outer hull. Derek's team scrambled through the opening just as the cannon detonated. A blinding flash seared their vision, the shockwave hurling them through the air. Derek hit the ground hard, ears ringing. Through blurred vision, he saw the bunker collapse in on itself, burying the Lemnorian superweapon forever. They regrouped with the main resistance force, battered but alive. The costly operation had eliminated the doomsday threat, but Derek knew the war was nowhere near the end. The Lemnorians lashed out in blind fury, their attacks on human population centers growing more reckless and brutal. But their once mighty invasion force was crumbling. Cut off from resupply and reeling from strategic losses, the alien troops grew demoralized and disorganized. Derek seized the initiative. He launched lightning raids against Lemnorian strongholds, using the humans' intimate knowledge of Earth's terrain to outmaneuver the invaders. With each victory, more humans flocked to the resistance banner. As he planned the next offensive, Derek allowed himself a grim smile. The Lemnorians had come expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they'd found a species that refused to break, no matter the odds. Derek Boyd stood atop a rocky outcrop, surveying the valley below through high-powered binoculars. The air hung heavy with anticipation as his resistance fighters took their positions, each movement precise and purposeful. "Command shuttle ETA in 10 minutes, Sarah's voice crackled through his earpiece. Derek nodded, though she couldn't see him. "All teams, sound off." One by one, his unit leaders reported in. Snipers nestled into camouflaged nests along the ridgelines. Demolitions experts put the final touches on their carefully laid minefield. Anti-aircraft crews stood ready with salvaged Lemnorian surface-to-air missiles. As the minutes ticked by, Derek's enhanced hearing picked up a faint rumble. He raised the binoculars again, scanning the sky. There, a glint of metal against the clouds. "Contact," he whispered into his comm. "Weapons hot. Wait for my signal." The Lemnorian command shuttle grew larger, its sleek form belying the devastation it had wrought on Earth. Derek's eyes sharp as he watched it descend, memories of fallen comrades flashing through his mind. "Now," he ordered. The valley erupted into chaos. Missiles streaked skyward, leaving trails of white smoke in their wake. The shuttle's defensive systems came alive, energy shields flickering as they struggled to repel the assault. But it wasn't enough. Derek watched with grim satisfaction as the barrage overwhelmed the alien craft. Its engines sputtered and died, sending it into a spiraling descent. "Brace for impact!" Derek shouted as the shuttle plummeted towards the valley floor. The ground shook as the alien vessel slammed into the earth, carving a deep furrow through the carefully hidden minefield. Explosions rippled along its hull, each blast tearing away chunks of armor and exposing the vulnerable innards. Through the settling dust, Derek saw movement. Lemnorian soldiers, dazed but alive, stumbled from the wreckage. "Snipers engage," he commanded. Precision fire rained down from the ridgelines. Alien bodies fell, their strange blood staining the scorched earth. Those who survived the initial volley scrambled for cover, only to trigger more hidden explosives. Derek slid down the rocky slope, assault rifle at the ready. He led a team towards the downed shuttle, stepping carefully to avoid any unexploded ordnance. The air reeked of ozone and burning metal. Fires raged within the shuttle's broken frame, casting an eerie glow. As they drew closer, Derek saw a Lemnorian officer crawling from the wreckage, its limbs bent at unnatural angles. Without hesitation, Derek raised his weapon and fired. The alien's head exploded in a spray of gore. "Check for survivors," he ordered his team. "No prisoners." They moved through the debris field, executing any Lemnorians they found with cold efficiency. Derek knew the brutal necessity of their actions. They couldn't risk leaving anyone alive to rally the remaining invasion forces. As the last echoes of gunfire faded, Sarah approached Derek, her face streaked with soot and sweat. "Confirmed kills on all high-ranking officers," she reported. "We did it, Derek. We cut off the head of the snake." Derek nodded, allowing himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. But he knew the war was not nearly finished. In the days that followed, reports flooded in from across the globe. Lemnorian forces, suddenly leaderless, fell into disarray. Some fought on with misguided ferocity, while others simply laid down their arms. Derek led his resistance fighters in a relentless campaign to mop up the remaining alien strongholds. They struck hard and fast, giving the invaders no time to regroup or establish a new chain of command. Cities that had long suffered under Lemnorian occupation saw their alien overlords fleeing in panic. Humans emerged from hiding, joining the fight with whatever weapons they could scrounge. Derek watched from the cockpit of a captured Lemnorian dropship as the last major alien base on Earth went up in flames. The comm channels buzzed with reports of Lemnorian ships abandoning their positions, breaking orbit to flee back to the stars they came from.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.